tapasa chiyate brahman tasmad annam jayate annatdana ona lokanu srijaha. Brahman concentrates himself into one single point. From that stress of the point, annam jayate, matter is born. I am saying jayate, born. From matter, prana and mana. After that, lokano srijaha, many levels of being and consciousness. Now that part we are not concerned about in this particular talk. But this is very clear. Brahman concentrates himself. Tapasa chiyate Brahman. He collects himself into one point. The stress of that point, from that, annam vyayate, matter is born. From matter, life and mind. Now what clearer statement can there be of the doctrine of evolution? This is Mundaka Upanishad, which you don't know how long ancient it is, but certainly several thousand years before Christian era. This is scriptures. If we come to intellectual philosophy, we also find in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, Jatantara Parinama, Jati Antara Parinama, the change of species, Prakritta Arupat, now the filling in or manifestation of the inner nature. And in the commentary, Basu speaks of changes of anga and pratyanga, limbs and organs of things. Jatantara would mean parinama, change of species, living creatures. And it's in the commentary he speaks of anga pratyanga, limbs and organs also change. How? Prakritta arupat, by the manifestation of the inner nature of things. Now, Sri Arabinda himself has quoted the first part of this aphorism, Jatantara Parinama. He did not quote the last part, Prakritta Arupat. It may be that his idea of the reason for evolution is not the same as that of Patanjali in his Yoga Sutra. Because in Patanjali the evolution is a Prakriti, which Prakriti is unconscious and ignorant. In Sri Aurobindo, evolution is always the manifestation, progressive, advancing of consciousness, of Chit Shakti, of the conscious power. So he quotes the first part of the aphorism, Jatantara Parinama. He does not quote the other half. In Yoga Sutra, evolution is a Prakriti which is ignorant, unconscious. In Sri Aurobindo, however it may be, however unclearly it may be, it is always evolution of consciousness, of Chit Shakti, of conscious power. In this case, in this account, I must mention that Brahman does not evolve. Brahman exactly what it is. It is being and Sat. It does not evolve. It remains what it is always. But it manifests. In the manifestation, there is evolution. In the Old Testament, there is the idea of special creation. Things are created once for all. Day and night, birds and beasts, man, etc. There is no change from one to the other. Evolution always depends on the idea of change. Things were not what they are now. They are very different millions and millions years ago. Millions and millions years? Yes. Because Sri Arabinda has got an essay, the Vedantic idea of evolution. How can the Vedantic idea of evolution? Now, Vedanta means originally the Upanishads. Vedanta. Not only physically, they occur at the end of the Vedas, but they're also, doctrinally speaking, the culmination of the doctrine of the Upanishads. And I've quoted one Upanishad at least, Mundaka. Tapasa chiyate brahman. Tasmat annam jayate. Annat prana manaha lokano sriyaha. Now, what more can you expect? The clearer statement of the Upanishads than you find this Mundaka Upanishad. And I've also quoted from intellectual philosophy, namely Yoga Sutra. So we'll dispense with the idea that the concept of evolution is new. Even Darwin's grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, knew about the idea of evolution. Herbert Spencer worked out a whole system of evolution. But all of this, 19th century, 20th century. Today also you have got philosophers of evolution, Samuel Alexander, C. Lloyd Morgan, etc. Basu, Herbert Spencer, but all of these are very modern. The ancient days, we already have the idea of evolution very clearly stated in the Upanishads. Otherwise, she will not be justified in writing an essay called The Vedantic Idea of Evolution. And Mundaka Upanishad is certainly Vedanta. Now, as I've said, she has quoted the first part of the aphorism, Jatantara Parinava. He did not quote the other half, Prakrita Arupat, because in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, evolution of Prakriti, which is ignorant and unconscious. Showing this that evolution is, it is really the progressive advanced manifestation of new things which are already somehow or other hidden. The potential becoming actual, the hidden become manifest. That which is not known becomes known. This is evolution. And there, the main point of Sri Arabinda is this change from things to things is of consciousness, not fully awake, but consciousness can limit itself. If consciousness could not limit itself, there would be nothing apart from consciousness. So there are two levels that we have to talk about. First, the Brahman as such, no evolution there at all. On the other hand, Brahman manifests things from outside his own being. And in that manifestation, evolution takes place. So there are two levels. One is non-evolutionary Brahman, the evolutionary manifestation of Brahman in this universe. So we have to be very clear about that point. Now, Sri Arabinda believes that consciousness can limit itself. Consciousness has got innumerable powers. One of them is that it can willfully, consciously, knowingly limit itself. Unless there is no limitation, there will be no manifestation. So manifestation already the result of a limitation of conscious power. Conscious power manifests things within Brahman, and in that manifestation, evolution takes place. So ultimately, originally, always, evolution is of conscious power, manifested in the universe. The limitation that conscious power undergoes is willed. It does it deliberately. Otherwise there will be no being, no creation, no manifestation. Because the world the universe, the dunya in which you live, move and have our being, certainly a limited thing. Brahman is infinite, unlimited, but manifestation is limited. In that limited manifestation, evolution takes place. This evolution, according to Arabinda, is eventually the last analysis of conscious power, of Chit Shakti. Even Shankara, who is an illusionist, he says that if we talk of creation, we cannot dispense with the idea of Shakti. Shakti is that which does anything. So if there is creation at all, it must be due to Shakti. It is true that ultimately it does not accept Shakti in Brahman. Brahman is akriya, nishaktika, completely inactive, without any power or manifestation. But that is not something that I'm going to talk about. But Shakti is something even Shankara has to accept. Shri says, yes, without Shakti there is no action possible. Or the Shakti is conscious. Why? Brahman is conscious. And what is the power of Brahman? Paratascha Shakti vividhai vashyayate jnana bala kriyacha. Of that, there is supreme power of three kinds: jnana, bala and kriya. Chit, will and action. This is Upanishads again. This power is that which is evolving. Evolving means it is bringing out that which is potential into actuality, that which is hidden to manifestation, that which is not known in the world of knowledge. If that is so, and Shivananda is absolutely categorical, that new evolution is inevitable. Till now, what has evolved in the world is reason, mental consciousness. But according to Arabinda, mind is only one level of several levels of consciousness. Beyond mind, there are other levels of consciousness. On the other hand, we say that mind is an extended term, goes up to what says overmind. Why it is overmind? Why it is not supermind? The overmind doesn't have integral knowledge. It selects some aspects of knowledge and being and consciousness and leaves out others. You can take examples. Take Shankara, whom Sri Aurobindo describes as two of the greatest thinkers of the world, on behalf of India, the other being Buddha. That Shankara selects only Brahman as mere Shat, akriya, inactive, nishkriya, shaktihina, shakti daridra, poor in spirit or power. So you see that a philosopher of Shankara's eminence does select parts of the truth and not others. Therefore it is not integral. Integrality will mean everything contained, included. On the other hand, you get Tantra. The whole thing is based upon the idea of conscious power, Chit Shakti. In Tantric philosophies, the ultimate reality is called Shiva, but Shiva is Shakti. They are two sides of the same coin. Shiva would very much agree with this. On the other hand, it is also has to be admitted at the same time that though Shakti acts, performs, progressively advances, Shiva remains always what it is. In Kashmir, they have developed the philosophy of Trika, Shivadaya Shasana. They are very poetical writers. One writer, Divagara Vatsa, says, Araha avaroha durakalim kurvan anavrata ishara avastitaha. Playing the swing of descent and ascent of consciousness the reality always remains what it is. It plays and also remains what it is. This is the mystery of the reality. It is indescribable. Yato vasu nivartanti aprapya manasa saha. That from which speech returns, not having attained it, and with mind comes back. So this reality is beyond the mind. On the other hand, mind is also something that has been manifested by the reality. Now this may seem to be a contradiction. Shinda says, it may seem to be so to the logical reason of man. But is the reality to be bound by the logical reason? Does logical reason come from reality? Or reality is determined by logical reason? Which is which? In the Paraprabheshika, a very important text of Kashmir Shaivism, it says, you ask, what is consciousness? What is the nature of consciousness? He said, you are doing it with the help of consciousness. There is no describing what consciousness is. It just is what it is. We are using the word consciousness in English, a chit, Satchit Ananda, that chit, which is prakasha, illumination, open light, supreme knowledge. Of this knowledge, there are different levels. As I said, Abhinavagupta, the great philosophers of all the great philosophers in the world, defines jada, matter, as parichinna prakashatam jadasya kila lakshanam. Parichinna prakashatta, fragmented consciousness. Matter also is concrete consciousness, but this consciousness is fragmented. This is what we get in Nasati Sakta, Tuchina. See, in the way, translated by fragmented. It's not whole, it's not integral. Therefore, it is incomplete. This incompleteness and completeness, partial and the integral, this is Srinivas's problem. The crisis in evolution, as Srinivas sees it, now, at present, due to the fact that reason, mental consciousness is our leader. On the other hand, from Srinivas's integral point of view, mind has come to its tether, come to its limit. In a letter, Srinivas says, can there be a greater philosopher than Plato? Can there be a greater saint than St. Francis of Assisi? No. The mind has reached its limit. And yet, reason, mental consciousness is our leader, which has constructed, to quote Srinivas's own language, an unimaginable hugeness. Life has become too complex. Reason has achieved very great things, but reason also has failed to create very small things. This is because reason is not the integral knowledge. For that you have to go beyond the mind. Then Srinivas describes in great detail what reason and this child science have actually achieved. He said, yes, it has achieved great things, but it also failed to achieve even small things. And the whole crisis of evolution today is a contradiction of Arabinda, the fact that reason and science are our leaders. We have built up a society. It's the individual is only one speck. The collective ego, that is what actually has constructed the society. And the ego, of course, is very limited. It's not the soul. What evolution is led by today is not the soul of knowledge. There is no spiritual force guiding it. It is all reason and science. Therefore, According to Sri Arabinda, the crisis must be there as long as mind and science, these are all leaders. What is the solution? Go beyond mind. Now, one may ask, Arabinda says, supramental evolution is inevitable. It will happen. When, we do not know. Even then, Arabinda says, the date is fixed in the divine's own calendar. So we do not know what that is. However, it is inevitable. It will happen. But the course of evolution is not straight line. It goes zigzag. It attains to a certain end, leaves it there, and takes something else. Arabinda gives the analogy of sappers and miners in army. They go first, prepare the field, and great risk to their lives. Later the army proceeds, but they have prepared the ground. Evolution also is like that. It takes up certain things and develops that, then leaves certain thing else, then comes back to that. That which has been developed is left there. So this fact, the zigzag course of the evolutionary stress, this has to be taken into account. It is inevitable, also at the same time it does not go in a straight line. This is one fact. And at the moment, as I've already said, reason and science are the leaders of humankind. Man depends entirely on reason and science. And it has created, as I've quoted already, a society which is of unimaginable hugeness. It's too big, too complex, unmanageable. And reason cannot manage it. Reason does not have the soul of knowledge. And without knowledge, how can things be led, controlled, managed properly? Mental consciousness is very limited from the point of view of the vast vistas of evolutionary course. Therefore, the solution is we must go beyond mind. Though, as I've already said, it has said in a footnote that using the word mind to include what I call overmind, which selects aspects of truth but does not have integral knowledge. Integral knowledge belongs only to the supermind. What is supermind? The divine's own knowledge of himself and his own native power of acting. It is both knowledge and will at the same time. Over and over again, she says knowledge hyphenated will. Capital K, capital W. This is supermind. To repeat once again, divine's own knowledge of himself and his own native power of acting. This is a knowledge will. This is integral. Nothing is left out of its possibility. His knowledge is infallible. His will is without failure. This power of knowledge will was invoked, brought down into our universe. Only then the crisis of evolution can be met, not otherwise. So this conclusion, therefore, go beyond mind. And mind also includes, as I said before, the overmind. Now this overmind, as I've already indicated, selects. Selection means limitation. You don't get integrality, the wholeness. So this says over and over again that today the society is all fragmented. There is no vision of the wholeness. The idea of wholeness is this. Wholeness is not a matter of particulars. Wholeness is a being of its own. Particulars only belong to the whole. This wholeness is something we have lost sight of. We select small things which are good in themselves. But the good is not really very good. It is not integral good. The beauty, there is the ugliness. There is truth, there is error. If there is power, there is a weakness. Why? Why this fear of opposites? This is because mind is a leader of evolution. If we wish evolution to proceed, if evolution is to advance, if evolution is to bring out what it's supposed to bring out, to make potential actual, the hidden manifest, that is not known. If this is evolution, then you must go beyond mind. Reason and science, these have to be left behind. Does not mean that they should not be utilized. This is something about Arabinda. Because it's integral, nothing is left out. But because nothing is left out, nothing is accepted as whole. This is not a contradiction. It is contradiction to the logical intellect, not for the reality's point of view. The crisis in evolution is the reason is that we are all bound by mind and destroying the science. Go beyond mind. How to do it? By yoga. That is where the yogi first and the philosopher later. He has himself said that I knew precious little about philosophy before I took to yoga. And when I wrote philosophy, it was only describing what I was experiencing in the practice of yoga. He says that he knew precious little about philosophy. When he started yoga, philosophy came automatically. So he is a philosopher, he accepts. First he said no, then he said yes, I've written philosophy. I've written philosophy only because I could describe in rational terms, as far as it's possible, what I observed in practicing yoga. So therefore, the crisis in evolution has to be met intellectually, morally, aesthetically, at the same time, yogically. Yoga is a complete thing. It does not leave out anything, particularly Purna Yoga, the integral yoga of Arabinda. So the crisis in evolution today is something which has come about because we have got stuck with the mind, with the reason. And to go beyond mind, that is the solution, the crisis in evolution. Yoga is a complete thing. It does not leave out anything, particularly Purna Yoga, the integral yoga of Arabinda. So the crisis in evolution today is something which has come about because we have got stuck with the mind, with the reason. And to go beyond mind, that is the solution, the crisis in evolution. How to do it? Well, Shri say very straightforward, by yoga. Because yoga is not merely certain exercises. Yoga is really speaking, seeking of knowledge. You know this, that to get liberation from ignorance, from bandhana, from bondage, you have to know Brahman. Knowledge is the most important thing. But knowledge, according to Arabinda, on the highest level is also will. So this integral knowledge will have to be invoked, brought down on a level, and apply it to the collective problem. Problem is both individual and collective. What is now collective is the ego, not the soul of knowledge. There is no spiritual influence guiding evolution. On the other hand, we are all, in the last analysis, spiritual beings. The spirituality in us will have to be brought out into the open That opening of the spiritual being in us is the solution to the crisis of evolution. So all of us who are interested in sharing this philosophy and yoga should take it and make a resolution that we have to go beyond mind to reason side. Reason is helper, reason is about. This is another aspect of Shienda's philosophy. Everything has a place, but everything is limited. Reason was the helper, but reason is about. Even ego has a place in human development. If you don't have ego, you like putty. You have to have an ego, but to have an ego, to transcend ego. This transcendence is always something which is very dear to the idea of sheerness. Don't be limited to what you have now. Go beyond. There. The goal is there, not here. And yet it is reachable. It is within our reach. We can get it if we want it. But do we want it? This is the point. The last paragraph, the first chapter of the Life Divine. Shirda says that the individuals may opt out of the evolutionary process. The mother will not allow the rest to do it. The mother here does means the conscious force. Conscious force does not allow the race to opt out the evolutionary process. So it is inevitable, and yet it doesn't hold the state life. How to bring it to a point where it can proceed along the state line. It can do only because that thing which is straight, whole, integral, the supermind, invoked, brought down, applied to a problem today. The crisis in evolution is soluble. It can be resolved only if we go beyond mind and reason. And invoke, as I've said before, bring down the supermind into the evolutionary process. The inevitable will happen, but it does not mean to have the state now. Unless we consciously accept it, want to reach it, bring it down, it will not happen. Then I go back to again what I said before. It is inevitable, then there is a crisis. There is no contradiction. There is a crisis because of we are not invoking the highest power of knowledge and will. If we do that, the crisis will be over. So all of us, or all of you, those that are interested in Shienda's philosophy and yoga, go out of this hall with the resolution. We must go beyond mind, reason, science. Crisis is there, but is also resolvable. It is done only by invoking the supreme knowledge will, the supermind, which is, to repeat once again, divine's own knowledge of himself and his own native power of acting. Thank you.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes. If you have any questions, you're welcome. Will I say something?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I think it needs to be.
I will.
Okay, see you later.
My question is, sure, Arabinda and Mother have come and have already brought down the supermind. So is our crisis over? Have they solved our crisis?
উনি জিজ্ঞাসা করছেন
কি বলছে?
যে মাদার আর শ্রী অরবিন্দ অলরেডি সুপার মাইন্ডকে অ্যাচিভ করেছেন,
কি করেছেন?
সুপার মাইন্ড অ্যাচিভ করেছেন,
Achieve
তাহলে
করেছেন।
কি ক্রাইসিস এখনো আছে না চলে গেছে?
The question that you have asked, the answer is very complex. Shiva himself has said, I've never called myself supramental. I've always called myself overmental. But that must be very clearly understood. He said immediately, that which is within is a different thing. I'm talking of the outside nature, the instrument. The instrument has not been supramentalized. He never claimed it. As himself said in a letter to Nirodhamaran, that I've always called myself overmental. That is the outer instrument, the nature, that which is within is different. So, the within can reach the supramental. Nature, instrument does not. This distinction has to be made very clearly. The inner and the outer. And showing this problem is the outer, the instrument, the nature. I'll give an example. So, when they come to Gupta, one young man used to work in his room, give personal service. One morning he went in his room and was sitting on the mosquito curtain and said, last night there's a great, very, very heavy rain. Narada Gupta said, well, I don't know. I was a Brahman yesterday. So his inner being was united with the Brahman during the night. On the other hand, in his nature, where was he? To the end of his life, he attained to the overmind. The mother gave his birthday card, said, towards the supermind. This is regarding nature, the instrument. So, you can attain knowledge of Brahman, but your nature doesn't become Brahmanized. This is the problem. What you've got inner cannot bring out outer. What is hidden can be manifest. If you are Brahman, spirit, can this nature is spiritualized? Such a whole chapter in 91. The evolution of the spiritual man. We are all mental men. We are not spiritual men. And spiritual, to its very large extent, will be supramental spiritual. So, one must be very careful in distinguishing the inner and the outer. The inner may go very high up, the instrument may not be able to catch up with it. So when you say, did she even realize? She did not realize it, the instrumental nature of the supermind, in the vacuum that he had.
Now the other thing is, the supermind has already come in 1950 and 56. Superman has already come down upon earth in 1956. So is the crisis there or not still now, after the descent of the supermind?
Come down to where?
To earth, upon earth, 1956.
Where do you find this?
That the mother has brought down the supermind, isn't it, in
Where do
1956?
you get this?
In Mother's own writing. In Mother's own, that Wednesday meditation.
No, but that's the nature. That's the content of what I'm saying. The whole thing is brought down to outer instrumental nature, not in the being. Because in a message on the mother, you see the mother has brought it down. This is true. In a message, she was the ones sent to me. It is just said, the mother is not a disciple of Sri Arabinda. She has had the same realization as experience of myself. So, same realization experiences within. The instrumental nature still have to be worked out. The supermind has brought down the mother. That is what Dr. Reddy says. If it's so, it was within nature, not within. Within they are already in the supermind. So the inner and outer, the distinction has to be clearly brought out. To bring the two together is the problem of the yoga. How can the inner be the outer? The outer must catch up with the inner. So if you say, did they bring the supermind? Yes and no, both are correct. They brought in their inner being, later they brought on the instrumental nature. This is the point. But if the supermind is already here, how it is working? দেখতে পাচ্ছি
আরেকটা কোশ্চেন
হ্যাঁ
আছে
কি কোয়েশ্চেন
বলছে যে যেরকম ইগোইস্টিক লাইফে
সরি
যেরকম ইগোইস্টিক ওয়ার্ল্ডে এখন লোকে রয়েছে
না শুনতে পাচ্ছি না
যেরকম ওয়ার্ল্ডে এখন লোকে রয়েছে ইগো রয়েছে সেরকম জায়গায় কি সুপার মাইন্ড অ্যাচিভ করা যাবে সেরকম ভাবে ইগোটা থাকবে আবার সুপার মাইন্ডও থাকবে
No, that is not possible. Ego means separative. If you read Shaila's writings, you always see separative ego sense. Ego means separative. We are using the word ego for the Sanskrit term ahankara. Now, ahankara doesn't mean pride. Ahankara means stress on the I. There is tamasic ahankara, rajasic ahankara, sattvic ahankara. All of these are ahankara. It is not pride but distress and I. This I can become tamasic, can be rajasic, can be sattvic. All of these are ego. But they are separative. It doesn't unite with others. It always separates itself from others. Now, as long as it's separate from everything else, how can I real Brahman? Brahman is one in all. The Brahman is one in all. They separate oneself from you. How can I real Brahman? So ego has to be given up. But Srinda says, ego was a helper, ego is a bar. As I said before, you need ego to develop in a human way. If you don't have any ego, you don't have two legs to stand upon. You are nowhere. So you have to develop the ego. Having developed, you have to give it up. It's always the case. Everything has its own place. In the letter, Srinda says, if consciousness consists of an ego, man becomes egoistic. So, maybe one person, A, B, C, he needs the ego to develop. So let him develop it. But because he has to develop it does not mean he must always keep it. This is the contradiction seems to be. I have to develop it to give it up. How can I give up what I have not developed? How can I give up what I don't have? So you develop the ego, then give it up in yoga. If you want Brahman, the Brahman is one in all. There is no separation, no distinction. Therefore, ahankara has to be given up. Sattvic ahankara, rajasic ahankara, tamasic ahankara. Tamasic ahankara will say, I am no good. I am not capable of anything. Nobody loves me. I am no worth. This is tamasic ego. Rajasic ego says, I can do everything. I will let the world that under my feet. Sattvic ahankara says, I am moral, I am religious, I am good, I am virtuous. All of this, I. This has to be given up, abandoned, completely. So that you can't have ego and also have Brahman. Because Brahman is one in all. There is no separation, no distinction.
The next question is, in the liberation from logical mind, reason leads to oneness in human race.
বলছে
কি বলছেন?
রিজন থেকে লিড রিজন রিজন থেকে লিবারেটেড হলেই কি ওয়াননেসের কাছে যাওয়া যাবে?
হ্যাঁ?
রিজন থেকে লিবারেটেড হলেই কি ওয়াননেস পাওয়া যাবে?
It is not so simple. Reason থেকে liberation মানে কি?
হ্যাঁ,
Huh?
ইংলিশে বলুন।
No. Reason, to go beyond reason, what does it mean? If you go beyond reason, you have to have a high level of consciousness. To go beyond reason means to go to a high level of consciousness. Otherwise, you are stuck in reason. So this is the whole essence of yoga. How to go beyond the mental consciousness to reason. If I stuck in reason, then I am not. Yoga is progress to high levels of consciousness. So reason has to be given up does not mean that reason cannot be utilized. That reason cannot be used. Reason will be there. Reason will not die out. But I, as a person, if I receiver, I have to go beyond reason, yet utilize reason. This again seems to be a contradiction. I go beyond reason, but I don't give it up. For example, Shiva says the ultimate game of Purna Yoga is to immortalize the material body. He does not give up the body, but he transforms it. That's the goal of the yoga. So body will remain a transformed way. In the same manner, reason also will remain, will utilize it, but then we'll go beyond it. To go beyond doesn't mean give up, to abandon, it does not mean that. All the levels of consciousness will be there, but all of it will be integrated in one sadhak, one yogi. This integration is actually the problem, and this is the more difficult thing to do. Haji.
আরো দুটো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে।
Oh.
বলছে যে মাইন্ডের বাইরে যেতে গেলে কি মাইন্ডকে ডেভেলপ করতে হবে?
Eh?
মাইন্ডকে ওভারকাম করতে গেলে কি মাইন্ডকে ডেভেলপ করতে হবে?
Mind has to be developed because we are human beings. Man is a mental being. We are children of Manu, of mind. Children himself has said it. Manusha, because we are child of mind. But because you are child of mind does not mean that you should not go beyond mind. At the moment we are man, therefore we are mental. But we are also psychic being. We are also spiritual soul. We are not only the mind. This is one difficult emotional window. It is very complex. It's not so simple. Man is this and man is not that. It's not like that. Man is body, body is life, man is man. Man is body, man is life, man is mind. Also man is psychic being. Psychic being is not mental, spiritual, physical, vital or mental. It comes directly from the Ananda aspect of the reality. So we are also the psychic being. When you say I, what do you mean? Under the body, the life, the mind, psychic being, or the spiritual self, which? So one has to be very careful about fixing one's attention on what is it you want. Supposing I've got a very weak body, I'm unhealthy. I will have to develop health, good body. I don't give it up. If my vitality is very weak, try to make it strong. If my reason is something which I cannot work out problems, I should learn how to work out problems by reason. They should develop to the extent that they can. That does not mean that they are the ultimate. This is the paradox. Everything is there, everything is beyond. So man is a body, man is life, man is brain, man is psychic being, all these together. Now, it may very well be that you have suddenly come to see that the psychic being, truly speaking, body, life, mind will be under the control of the psychic being. Sorry?
Next question.
I got you.
Yeah. No, I like the question.
Ah.
The question was to go beyond.
The question was to go beyond the mind, does one have to develop it first or it is not needed? That was the question which he answered just now. The next question is, what is negative ego? How can it be abolished?
বলছে নেগেটিভ ইগো কি?
ঠিক আছে।
নেগেটিভ ইগো কি?
Negative?
ইগো ইগো ইগো
Negative ego?
না, হোয়াট ইজ নেগেটিভ ইগো?
I don't know what negative ego is. I do not know what negative ego is. Have you come across this phrase? Negative ego? Where? I do not know what negative ego is. Ego is very positive. Negative in the ultimate sense of the term. It will negate progress. That's what you may say. But the ego is very positive and ego is not negative. It negates things, that may be. But in itself it is not negative.
Okay. Arabinda?
হয়ে গেছে। কি বলছে?
চলো, ঠিক আছে।
হয়েছে? Well, he has given us almost an hour.
I'm going to
Good, 55 minutes, of course. Well, thank you, Arabinda, for taking the trouble of coming all the way and very grateful to you for giving us this clarification regarding the crisis. Thanks a lot from Sakar and all of us.